Hello there, YouTube. This is the Rogue Gem Player coming at you with an updated version of my Ritual Beast deck profiles. The deck's changed a little bit, not to mention some new ban list changes and things like that, so I thought I'd give you an update on it. It's pretty cool. I like how this deck is still semi-relevant in today's meta. You can still make some really good tech choices, not to mention the deck is relatively budget, outside of maybe Lara's, but I'll get right on into it. So to start off with, we're going to start with the Tamers, which are 3 copies of Lara. Probably the best one in the entire deck. It's also the one that's hardest to really combo string around because it doesn't do any. She doesn't do anything by herself. You actually have to. You have to still if it's in hand, you have to still have another card in hand to do it. You generally use its effect to banish itself in order to banish her to summon her from deck. So keep that in mind. She also does have the normal summon effect in hand, so keep that in mind as well. Not to mention she also has that engrave effect to protect your Ritual Beast cards from battle or card effect, which does come up in some cases. We're then playing 3 copies of Elder, probably the best of the other Tamers. And that's mainly because he is a normal summon on legs that allows you to play multiple cards from your hand. We're then playing 2 copies of Window. You can cut her down to 1 if you really need to. I like having 2 because it's 1 level 4, so it makes the rank 4s. It's just another name that's also a beast, a spiritual beast. Not to mention she does occasionally, when destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can float into a extra deck monster, which can be relevant. We're then playing 1 copy of the original Lara and 1 copy of Wen. Certain combos will require you to go into Wen or into Lara. They're important, but they're not as relevant as the other ones, but they are ones you absolutely have to play because occasionally you do need to fetch something from Banished or Graveyard in order to continue playing. So that's all the Tamers. We're now going into the Spiritual Beast monsters, which start with 3 copies of Kanahawk. Probably the best one. Normal summon Kanahawk is actually still relevant as you go on. The fact that he instantly gets you another card. Thanks to new Lara, you can now use Kanahawk to instantly get a monster on board to make the ulti Kanahawk, which is pretty important to continue making plays. It provides you with so much advantage. It's insane. And not to mention you do summon and use its effect multiple times. So, and then we're playing 3 copies of Rampengu, the other one that you have to play 3 of. The ability to just banish 1 and send 1 from deck is really, really good. Not to mention the card that you banish off of its effect is going to get returned back with Flag. They're absolutely amazing. They are level 4s, which is relevant for making the rank 4 in the deck. So, and then we play 1 copy of Apelio and 1 copy of Petalfin. The reason why we're playing these is there are some cases where you first of all, Apelio's in here because it is a pyro. It's another spiritual beast that does something, and not to mention it's another name. Petalfin is relevant not only as a way of getting rid of getting certain Ritual Beasts out of your hand, but also getting rid of certain cards. It's 1-for-1 removal occasionally, but it is also another name, which is pretty important. So then for the kind of like supplementary engine, the Nemesis cards, which is 1 Flag, 1 Corridor, and 1 Protoss. I'll explain right now why I'm playing Corridor, and Corridor's in here because we are playing Thunder Dragon Colossus in this deck. There are certain cases where Protoss is not as good as Thunder Dragon Colossus, just because of the nature of it. Though you are summoning Protoss more often than not, it is another name that you can play. Not to mention if you call Dark against Malice, you're fine. Corridor is also relevant for like rogue matchups and things like that as well. So, not to mention it is another body that you can use to link with if you absolutely need to do that. We're then playing for non-engine, 3 Ash, and 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. This is probably one of the few decks that absolutely can play Dimension Shifter and not be really bothered by it. Though the deck is a learning curve to keep that in mind. So Dimension Shifter against certain decks like Malice basically does nothing. For the most part, there are probably some things you can disrupt with it, but against Ryzeal, it turns all the Ryzeal monsters into non-extenders because they can't go to graveyard to do other things and things like that. They still have plays, but they have to play kind of like half-assed, which is part of it, and then you can just break their board. It allows you to just play into stuff. It forces your opponent to go into things inopportune. So, and then against Rogue and things like that, it's still relevant. We're then playing, for spells, we're playing 3 copies of Inheritance. You can cut this if you cut this down to 2 if you'd like. The ability to just search a random card, or search a piece that you need, or just get rid of extras, like if you draw multiple Kanahawks, or multiple Rampengus, because having multiples don't really fix anything, even though their on-field effects are not a hard once per turn. Sometimes you just need to get another piece, or you need a specific tamer, because having things like Elder Kanahawk or having a tamer plus any beast gives you additional cards, because the deck is not super linear. So keep that in mind. So we're then playing 3 copies of Emergency Teleport because the tamers are all psychics, so you can get some free summons off of it. Yes, there are certain cases where you don't want to play this, but it is a free, body. Not to mention that, it is an extender if you absolutely need it. And then we're playing 1 copy of Called by the Grave as our last non-engine card. We're then for traps, so you can mix with the ratios if you absolutely have to. First of all, we're playing 1 copy of Virtual Beast Steeds. You absolutely have to have this as a search target for Kanahawk. The ability to just blow up multiple cards that is non-targeting is actually really important. Just the ability to, because it gets rid of certain cards. Not to mention, if you do draw it, you can search other things. But it is a card that says you can blow up 2 to 4 cards if you absolutely have to. So we then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence as our non-engine hand trap, and then we are playing 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. I feel like main decking this card is pretty important for the Ryzeal matchups, and then any other rogue stuff. Yes, it doesn't do nearly as much against things like Malice, but the fact that this is pretty much a way of stalling or auto-winning against things like Ryzeal and Fiendsmith and all kinds of other fun stuff, just provides too much advantage for me to just not play it. So, not to mention the deck it's literally 1-2 card combos. You can play a lot on non-engine if you absolutely have to. So, now for the extra deck, there's like 12 of the cards in the deck are pretty much set. Some ratios you can change if you absolutely have to. But some of it is, like I said, this deck has got a pretty high learning curve, so you have to keep that in mind. So we're going to start with 2 copies of Ulti Kanahawk. I find that playing 2 is just fine. If you absolutely have to, you can cut 1, but it does make your Rampengu lines really awkward because you have to still have access to the Kanahawk to actually do your combo, because you do summon this card multiple times. We're then playing 2 copies of Nochi Drago. I wish this card had a target in the main deck, but one day we will get a worm target for it. But the fact that you can use your graveyard as material to summon this is pretty important, because it does provide free extension. Not to mention, we do play 2 copies of it, because you do go through 1 in the combo. But the fact that you can just summon another monster, summon a card that says none of your Ritual Beast monsters can be targeted by card effects, which is really important. It just provides protection when you need it. Not to mention, it can cost basically nothing to summon it, because your normal combo will load your graveyard up anyway. We're then playing 1 copy of Ulti Apelio. This card can win you games instantly. Not to mention that when it does attack, it's unaffected by everything else. So it does make it so that your opponent basically can't use dumb stuff against it. Not to mention, it is another one of those, hey, we can summon it. And if you absolutely have to, you can send this off of Rampengu to get the Apelio out of the deck. And then we're playing 1 copy of Gaia Paleo. You do banish this and then return it, so you will still always have access to it. But the fact you will have to hard summon it most likely. It is an auto win button because it is an Omni Negate if you absolutely need it. And then we're playing 1 copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus for the Nemesis corridor, which you absolutely have it as an option. So that's all the fusions. We are then playing for the links. We're playing 2 copies of Ulti Kuman Falcos. You can cut one if you'd like. I like this as occasionally you do just need more targets. Sometimes you have to summon it multiple times. 2 copies of Retiari. This is, you're going to summon this. It's part of the combo. This also is a floodgate because for some decks that need to tribute their monsters. So this kind of occasionally does work against some other like rogue stuff. So keep that in mind. And then for the non-generic links, we're playing Cross Sheep. I would say try playing this, and a lot of it is because you can make the Cross Sheep and you can kind of bring stuff back occasionally. It does allow you to kind of play other lines that don't necessarily go into other things. We're then playing 1 copy of SP Little Knight, IP Masquerena, and Access Code Talker. I like playing these. They're pretty important to, play. Like, Little Knight is absolutely amazing as a generic toolbox. And then Access Code, because you can win games instantly off of it. And then we are playing 1 copy of Infernal Flame Banshee, which is a part of the combo to get into Protoss or Corridor. So that's pretty much how the deck operates. So, like I said, this deck is pretty cool. It's kind of one of those decks that it literally took them getting effectively 3 new cards. Really, in reality, Lara kind of just busts the deck open. Nochi Drago kind of helps with it. But the fact that the deck can play under certain hand traps really, really well. It is also very skill-based because the deck is not linear. Okay, I want to preface this very clearly. The deck is not linear. There are certain ways to play the deck. There are the standard combos, but they kind of change depending on what's in your hand, how your opponent reacts to it. It can play through certain hand traps. It can play under its own hand trap, aka Dimension Shifter, very easily. It can play under Mulcharmies to a point, if you absolutely have to do that, just because of the nature of the deck. So let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.